I think what's interesting though, like if you think about how someone learns and how someone masters a skill, how much of that is self-driven versus one-on-one tutoring and mastery. So this is where I think it gets really interesting is how to use AI to really help someone learn.
Mm-hmm.
And in traditional models, so much is based around, the FTE of faculty and what that looks like. And I think we have a little bit more freedom to experiment around, not even just what does an AI enhanced tutor look like to a regular course set, but what if in 5 years you come to WGU and you say, I actually prefer to use this online AI driven tutor that's, really been tested and we know is validated and, doesn't have glitches. And you may prefer to actually learn in that way with a human mentor and coach that's getting you through it. And then we could offer that actually for a lower price point.
Yeah. Hey, tell us about you.
Well, first off, just thanks for having me on the show. And so I can talk a little bit about WGU. But yeah, so my name's Courtney Hills McBeth. I'm the Chief Academic Officer and Provost at WGU. And I'm in my first year in the role. I've been at WGU about 9 months. And prior to that, I worked at Strata Education Foundation, which is a national nonprofit, and was over philanthropy investing there. And prior to that, I worked at the University of Utah for 20 years in various different roles. And just really excited to be at WGU, which is just kind of has my heart, and we put the student at the center of everything, and have an amazing, flexible, personalized, affordable, and online program that works for hundreds of thousands of students in the U.S. right now.
I personally think WGU is the future of education. I think what you are doing there and what the whole university is doing there is the way education will be done. And I think, these other universities will probably catch up 10 years from now.
Let's hope. There's lots of good institutions out there serving different roles. I think it's really perfect to be having this conversation with you, Clint, and all the leading entrepreneurs and tech geniuses in our state in Utah, because WGU's story really starts with tech 30 plus years ago when that internet thing was coming about, and Governor Levitt at the time, governor of Utah, and Governor Romer of Colorado and the other Western governors sort of looked around and said, how is higher ed going to respond to this internet? And that's really the birth of WGU. And so that our first 30 years or so have been really about how to leverage technology to make learning more accessible and affordable and personalized. And so I'll be excited today to talk about what we're thinking about for the next 30 years of WGU 2.0.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know WGU was founded by Utah Governor Mike Levitt, which is incredible. And Mike Levitt's a wonderful man. What is it now, though? It's not a government entity, right?
That's right. So we are a nonprofit.
Yeah.
We are a nonprofit entity, online university. And so we have WGU Corp, which is a nonprofit corporation. And under that, we have the university, which is our accredited nonprofit university. And then we have several other organizations that are part of WGU Corp. One focused on research and development. That's WGU Labs. We have WGU Academy, which is where we develop and serve our industry certificates and our readiness offerings. And then we have Juvo, which is a venture arm investing in ed tech companies.
Really? I didn't know you had a venture arm. Mm-hmm. That's way cool. That's very interesting.
It's all about, supporting ed tech and what's central to our mission in terms of how to leverage technology to advance education and our mission.
Okay. So right now, as I understand it, it's a lot of computer programming type degrees, business degrees, that type of stuff, right?
Right. So we have,
what am I missing in terms of what the current offering is?
Sure. So we have over 80 degrees and certificate offerings. And we have 4 schools. So we have a school of education, a school of health.
Oh, education and health is the one I missed. Yeah.
Right. And business and technology. And so at any given moment, we have between 180,000 active students. And usually around 50,000 or so, give or take, in each one of those schools. So we can talk more about the different programs and things, but that's part of WGU's offerings are really focused on where there, critical workforce shortages and where students can get degrees that lead to good jobs and good incomes.
Yeah. No, some of the degrees, particularly in tech and business, I don't know as much about the education and health field, but I'm sure they're incredible. But your ones on tech and business are groundbreaking. They're better than anything out there.
Right.
It's pretty incredible.
It's interesting. I think about this, 10, 12 years ago, I was working at a traditional brick and mortar institution, and employers kept coming to us saying, we need cybersecurity specialists. And now at WGU, we've had a cyber program for quite a few years now. And I think it's an example where WGU was able to really respond to what were workforce needs in cyber and spin up a program. And now we have the top cybersecurity program in the country. We have about 30,000 students in our cyber program.
That's so many students, by the way.
And it has, we have all the top accreditation. We have industry certs that are woven into the programs, the CompTIA certs, and great sort of pass rates and have received a lot of awards for that program. So I think that's a really good, example of technology advancements and where WGU is able to respond to employer needs.
Yeah, this is a good question for you. Is like, how do you decide what type of program to develop? Like right now, I imagine you're thinking like, how do we develop an AI program or something like that?
Right.
Or you already have some versions of that, of course, with like your data science and things like that, and ability to program in Python, which is, a big piece of AI. But how do you decide?
Right. So as chief academic officer, this is what I work with my leaders and my team on every day. And in fact, this week I said, what we need to be thinking about, what is the next cyber program in technology? Like we need to be looking 10 years out and be ahead of on that bleeding edge of what are the programs. So we have a pretty sophisticated formula actually when we think about developing new programs. And so I'll give you some of those main dimensions. The first is there a critical workforce need, right? Are there jobs for students who would be doing the program? What are the earnings and the salaries for the different level of jobs when someone comes out? And then what is that earning trajectory over a lifetime? We look at sort of national trends as well as regional trends. We also look at, where there's expertise and where we can pull expertise. We always pull employers and have employers sitting at the table when we design curriculum. And then we really look at programs where we can scale those. So really small niche programs we haven't focused on as much because we want to build programs that we can really scale across the country and be really sort of deliberate on offering a certain set of programs that really align to workforce needs, good jobs, good incomes.
So what's next?
Well, speaking of technology and business, we are really looking at how to expand our technology programs and thinking about, what role does AI play? And, we see a few AI programs popping up around the country. To me, it's actually kind of interesting. 15 years ago, the higher ed industry was like, what do we do about internationalization and international affairs? And so it's this question of, do you pop up like a single degree about a certain cutting edge topic, whether it's environment or international studies, or do you actually weave it through the curriculum? And so these are the questions that we're struggling with right now. So in terms of AI, we're actually embedding those digital literacy skills in our general education curriculum. So that every student that comes to WGU would have access to that. And it's actually built within those initial courses of digital literacy across different use cases. And then we're pretty close to having an AI certificate that would be offered that someone could take and pair with any degree offering. And then weaving some of those into our different courses. And as well, thinking about what would perhaps a standalone degree or how do you pair that with some existing And I think there's also like AI is just everyday disrupting.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people that say they're AI experts and some are, a lot aren't. And so I won't attempt to like say I'm an AI expert other than we see, you know, the internet is impacting this first 30 years of WGU. The next 30 years are about AI implications to education and technology and ensuring that we educate our students on this topic, whether they're going to be a teacher, how does AI impact teaching in the classroom, and or embedding it into our everyday operations and practices and using it to really improve personalization of the student experience, personalization of the curriculum, and improving student success and outcomes.
Well, again, you are teaching the technology that, you know, powers AI. So like you could actually learn a lot and get very, very far already, and probably as far as anybody can go currently at WGU with your, particularly like your data science, like I said, machine learning, like these various courses that you have inside of there.
Right.
Like that really
Prompt
is AI, you know, like, but yeah, having it actually say AI is probably going to be good for marketing and things like that. And
right. We were struggling with that, you know, this very week of, you know, it helps to put it in there because it is a hot topic of the moment. But again, it kind of goes back to what's actually happening in the workplace and what are the changes in the workplace that in the work environment that we really need to teach to and prepare students to be able to be effective, you know, contributors to their organizations and or entrepreneurs, right? So in our business programs, for example, you know, we're focusing and we have some new user experience design programs that have come online and communications and we have some of our programs that sort of cross between tech and business as well. So I hope, you know, some of the Silicon Slope business owners or entrepreneurs, you know, while you're launching your business, you can take a WGU course or degrees alongside that. And it sort of works around people's schedules and actually can help people be better business owners and or entrepreneurs.
Silicon Slope Summit is Utah's original and longest running grassroots tech event. It provides entrepreneurs, startups, and leaders the resources and community they need to succeed. With the pandemic behind us, we're excited to bring Silicon Slope Summit back to its original January dates in conjunction with the Sundance Film Festival. We have some unbelievable news. Silicon Slope Summit is free for all Utahns for the first time ever. You heard that right. Silicon Slope Summit is now free. For those looking for an upgraded experience, we are also offering VIP tickets for just $95. Thanks to our partners, sponsors, and government leaders, Silicon Slope Summit is the most accessible tech and startup event in the world. Summit will be hosted in multiple locations throughout the week in both Utah and Salt Lake Valley. There will also be a Startup Alley at Summit this year, where startups and entrepreneurs can meet with investors from around the world to pitch their ideas, receive feedback, and promote what they're building. Of course, we'll be bringing in world-class leaders and speakers, as we have in the past, but we'll also be hosting specific tracks and bringing attendees together for curated networking in a way never done before. You don't want to miss this year's summit. To register, buy VIP tickets, learn about sponsorship, and apply for your startup to be part of Startup Alley. Go to siliconslopes.com/summit.
You mentioned this before, but I kind of want to double click on it, and that is how AI is going to change the way people educate, how that's going to change educators, and how that's going to change how like what will a classroom look like? Like there's a lot of like really interesting questions that AI now, I mean, already like you can learn a lot through these LLM systems and like just like upload a book and like give me the key stuff, all that type of stuff, right?
Right.
So what does education look like with AI?
So I'm gonna answer your loftier question here in a minute, but I actually want to start with a story. So I was at ASU GSV, the India version of ASU GSV, which probably many of the listeners have been to or been advertised about. And this was in February, and I was pitched by dozens and dozens of, you know, really smart, ambitious Indian tech entrepreneurs. And what really struck me walking away from that was like none of their solutions actually would be helpful to WGU, because all the solutions that they were creating, mostly they're venture backed, right? So they have that pressure of venture return over a certain time period. All of these solutions were, let's make Clint the professor really cool in an AI version that works for a traditional brick and mortar. So I actually left that ASU GSV kind of dumbfounded, like, wow, is this just gonna like polish the existing rock that already exists? That's not what we're interested in at WGU. We really want to think about what you get to, which is, what does learning look like and how can we really democratize learning with AI?
Yeah.
And given that we operate solely in a digital online environment, we do have a running start in that, given that we don't have the constraints and all the pressures that a brick and mortar has. A large part why I came to WGU was to say, like, I want to be in a leadership position at an institution where we can truly say, how can AI democratize learning? And so I think some of the ways that we're thinking about that is, first, like a personalized educational experience. And that actually even starts from the beginning. Like someone who doesn't even know what they want to do, we want to create that best like digital discovery career exploration, and use AI pulling data about the student, where they come from, like what are their interests, skills, and using the technology that we have to really provide that sort of personalized career exploration before they even enroll. So then when students enroll and they're having that student experience, when they're learning, so I'll just take like even within a course, we can start designing a world in which, based on past learning patterns, how someone navigates through a course, providing like nudges, recommendations of how to navigate through a course. Even so, like a specific example would be if someone's going through a course with us and we know you've actually demonstrated that you know 3 of the 5 skills or competencies within the assessment, but we know given their past learning that if they took the assessment at that point, that their propensity to drop out would be 2 to 3 times normal, then we can then provide digital recommendations to say, wait, before you take this assessment, you actually need to go back and really focus on these 2 modules, which will bring you up to speed on these 2 skills and competencies. So using that sort of probabilistic recommendation, helping someone know when to take an assessment, when not, and then eventually how to then serve up different types of content that really engages the learner. So that's kind of within a course. And then you think about what the support model is behind that. Right now, WGU has a disaggregated faculty model. We have mentors, faculty mentors who help someone from the day they start until they finish. And that's someone that's helped someone navigate sort of their program and course sequencing, career stuff, navigating life complications. And then we have course instructors who are an expert in a particular course. And so they can come in and do one-on-one tutoring, like group tutoring. And then we have evaluators that evaluate the assessments, right? Because WG is a competency-based model. So we're about competency, not time. And so we have these evaluators that are evaluating our performance assessments or written assessments. And with each one of those faculty roles, we can enhance their ability to provide uniquely human interactions. So we like right now we have a pilot going on with Chiron for our evaluators, where the evaluators can now use an AI tool that we tune up to say, here are the skills and competencies in the rubric within a written assessment. And that AI tool can then scan a written paper that comes in and highlight and basically get the grading, I would say 80 or 90% of the way there. Then that evaluator faculty can spend their time really providing actually a very personalized feedback to the student to say, here's what you did well, here's what you missed. You really need to focus here. So using AI to really enhance timely interventions from our mentors who might say, you know what, I realize Clint hasn't actually logged on in 48 days. He's at high risk of dropping. So that mentor knows I've got to reach out to Clint right now. I know that he prefers text message, so I'm going to text message him and provide that, uniquely human support. I think
You just described my online guitar class, by the way.
Really?
It's like, hey, you haven't signed in 6 months. I'm like, yeah,
I know.
Can't do that.
I think what's interesting though, like if you think about how someone learns and how someone masters a skill, how much of that is self-driven versus one-on-one tutoring and mastery. So this is where I think it gets really interesting is how to use AI to really help someone learn.
Mm-hmm.
And in traditional models, so much is based around, the FTE of faculty and what that looks like. And I think we have a little bit more freedom to experiment around, not even just what does an AI enhanced tutor look like to a regular course set, but what if in 5 years you come to WGU and you say, I actually prefer to use this online AI driven tutor that's, really been tested and we know is validated and, doesn't have glitches. And you may prefer to actually learn in that way with a human mentor and coach that's getting you through it. And then we could offer that actually for a lower price point.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we think about how to use AI to enhance what we're currently doing in our current model. And we're pushing the boundaries to say, how can we use it to drive down more cost, provide a more personalized experience, and fine tune a learning experience to, truly how someone prefers to learn.
Yeah. That's where I think things are going. Like, I think what you just described is the way a lot of people will learn in the future. Because if you think about, you mentioned like democratizing education, right? Which has been really difficult. Then the internet comes around, then something like YouTube comes around and video and, these great ed tech platforms that we have here, even like Instructure, where you can upload courses, do quizzes, all this type of stuff. Right. And so video really that was kind of like the first, like, hey, we can democratize education.
Right.
What AI can do that I find fascinating and I think will be revolutionary is what you just described. A professor can upload all of their material into a GPT, all of it. And the student can then just ask that GPT the questions and that one-on-one tutoring. So you've never been able to scale one-on-one tutoring. That's crazy.
We have one-on-one tutoring right now.
Through this?
No, WGU does one-on-one tutoring. That's what our course instructors do.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is like they can only tutor one person at a time, right?
Right.
Whereas like an LLM like this, you can tutor thousands, hundreds of thousands.
That's right. That's right.
Just have that professor upload all of their knowledge and all of their research. And this is where things get crazy. You got to make sure like universities can have the IP for this so that it's not just like anywhere.
Right.
But if the professors, all of its, everything they've ever taught or think, or we put a class in there, you could upload like all of these really famous professors, all of their, and you'd get like you could literally interact with them.
Right.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy. And, you like, where does that go? Does that then just bolster the existing model where some people have an on-campus experience, other people utilize this experience? What's the price point on what you just described?
Yeah.
That's where I struggle because you see a lot of the exec ed programs of the elite sort of branded institutions, and they start to become revenue streams to buffer sort of other things that aren't penciling out. And so, this will be interesting to watch the broader higher ed market. I think at WGU, what we're really committed to is what is that quality interaction, pulling together the expert information. And part of the expert information, I think that's different in our model too, is we say employers actually can tell us what they need in the workplace, and combining not only that strong sort of theoretical background, but pairing it with the practical as well and creating those, learning environments that can be super personalized. And so if you think, so our disaggregated faculty model made it so that we had specialized faculty roles as opposed to, faculty at a lot of institutions, they have a lot of things that they're juggling: research, teaching, administrative duties, community service. And the system is built sort of where they're pulled a lot of directions. We basically said, you know what, if this is all about the student, then students, an evidence-based practice is mentoring and coaching. So we're going to give students high quality faculty, domain experts that both know the domain that the student's studying and they understand sort of life and mentoring coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Then we said course instructors are your deep content experts. So really what you're talking about is disrupting the course instruction only.
Yeah.
And that course instruction, utilizing LLMs and these personalized ways to do it.
You will still need the human, like you will still need
we want
that experience.
human in the
you
loop.
Still will want that like one-on-one mentoring and like all of like the actual one-on-one mentoring. But it really is interesting how now a professor can be mentoring thousands of people and not even be on one mentoring call. It's just they've uploaded all of their things into an LLM. That's crazy. Right.
So, I mean, Khan Academy is doing this with Khanmigo. And so, you know, we saw Khan's a partner, a friend, and, you know, we, talk to him and try to learn from what's happening there. If you sort of think about remember when MOOCs came out and it was like MOOCs is going to disrupt all of higher ed and it's going to change everything. It did nothing, right? Yeah. I mean, what we saw is a lot of people are interested or they take the guitar class or whatever, but there's sort of no commitment to actually learning and finishing it through. So we still need these accredited, like supported bodies of education that help motivate, validate, and help a learner go through a structured experience. But we can fundamentally rethink what that looks like and make it democratized, affordable. And this is where I really think, you know, with Scott Pulsfer and I, it's like, this is the WGU 2.0 of how we use AI to really democratize that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
And still give validated, I mean, degrees are not going away. Degrees are a long held.
You'll always be in the business. You'll always be in business as a university, because how do you know if something's validated? You need accreditation, and you need an institution that, you know, has the ability to give accreditation, is accredited itself, like all of that type of stuff, right? Like you do need to, like, it can't just be the wild, wild west.
That's right.
And like, hey, I watched 6 YouTube videos. Now I'm an expert on something, right? Like you really do need this accreditation piece.
I think just like WGU pushed accreditors on competency-based education, which is now, you know, validated. We know it's a model that works. We'll probably be pushing accreditors on what these new types of models look like, where you use AI enhancements as part of that experience. And this gets into regular and substantive interactions and some sort of weedy accreditation things. But another frontier that we're actually pushing and focusing on, in addition to this, what can AI do to enhance and democratize our model, is also work-based pathways and work-based experience. So how do we better align working and learning to have people in the workplace and be able to validate the skills and the competencies earned and align that with learning?
As you talk to companies and employers now, what are they saying that they need most?
In terms of skills?
Yeah, like when you meet with them and like, hey, we're trying to figure out, you know, what type of degrees, what type of programs we should put together. What do you need most? I'm actually really fascinated by the answer to this question.
It's all over the board, honestly. Some very fundamental skills, like we need people who show up on time and can be professional and can look someone in the eyes and carry on a conversation without constantly looking at their phone. I mean, some of these speak to some generational changes.
Yeah, of course.
And then those are like foundational professional skills. And then you sort of get to like, what are those more endurable, higher order skills of like critical thinking, problem solving? These are all skills that historically have been part of the liberal arts education, right? So a lot of the higher ed world has been sort of this like liberal arts versus practical or vocational skills and training. And that's where WGU just kind of blows up that dichotomy, is like people need both of these. You need concrete, real skills in the workplace, plus these professional higher order thinking skills. And so that sort of gets to how we build our programs, to build both of those skills and to be able to do it in digital environments.
I think liberal arts degrees and liberal arts majors will be in high demand in the future, given everything that you just said, because, you're not going to need a lot of technical expertise. You're not going to need to like really understand computer science soon. Like it's fascinating what's happening. So ethics, morals, the ability to think, the ability to reason, the ability to solve problems. Like that's going to be the critical thing.
Right.
Like the ability to write, type, communicate with someone like you were saying, right? Like that's going to be incredibly important because you got to tell these AI systems, you got to be able to communicate what you want to these AI systems and to the rest of the world. And so if you can't do that, nothing else really matters.
That's right. We will have to educate and train people to do uniquely human things. Yeah. Which are the skills that you just talked about. And it'll become more and more important. And another thing I think as we're talking about this is like you think about building community. Like what does community actually mean nowadays? Like we've talked about it from the learning angle, but part of that is a community. And the traditional model of higher ed has been go to a campus, be part of a sorority or fraternity, be part of a club or etc. And that will not go away. That'll continue to be a rich experience. It's become too costly for most people. That's where you see all the questioning around the value of ROI and ROI, etc. And so, like, what do digital communities look like? So my kids have a very robust community in their school. They also have a really robust digital community. Yeah. And what does learning and what do digital communities look like? And what do those workplaces look like? I think factors into this too. We're not only in an in-person dimension now. We will start to actually have our in-person interactions, our digital communities, and then what do sort of virtual, augmented, full body experiences look like? I mean, talk about getting into morals and ethics and what that looks like.
I honestly do not think people are ready for this. And I don't think it's years away. In fact, a lot of this is here. Like, I think we're like next year. Sam Altman just yesterday said, next year we'll achieve AGI. It's like, whoa, that's so crazy. Yeah. You know how crazy that is? Like that changes the whole world once that's achieved.
Right.
And so we are here living this right now.
This is the movie Ready Player One.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Or like Battlestar Galactica, even in, I'm showing my nerdness here, but these are movies that had these far off concepts that are perhaps not that far off now. And
these are jobs and industries. There's not one that won't be disrupted by this in some way.
Right.
And by the way, like for good and for bad, like people will lose jobs because of this, but all other jobs will be created. And,
that's right.
All of that type of stuff. So I'm not as worried about the job thing in the long term. In the short term, I would be worried about it quite a bit. If I was like a political leader or business leader, like what do we do here? Because that's about to happen pretty soon.
Right. Right.
Which is pretty crazy. So, but yeah, when it comes to community, that's a really interesting one for us, right? As I think about it at Silicon Slopes, in person is becoming less and less relevant. It's really interesting.
Well, maybe for entrepreneurs, but look at the trend for large tech companies like Amazon, PayPal. What are they doing right now? They're all requiring return to office.
Oh, I'm not saying like return to, I actually think that's great. Yeah. I'm talking like what Silicon Slopes used to do is an event every day, right? Bringing community people together. And like the whole goal was like, let's get 500 people in that room and there's going to be a panel discussion and there will be some sort of PowerPoint. We'll serve them lunch afterwards. That's what I mean. I actually do think, I do think people should work from office. I think that's actually really valuable. But then what do you do if like those events aren't as important?
Right.
What becomes important is like these more curated connections and these deeper one-on-one relationships.
Right. That's right.
That becomes what a community is like,
and or listening to these podcasts or videos.
A podcast or something, like it's really interesting. Like, do you want to go to a AI event that Silicon Slopes puts on? Or do you want to watch like the Godfather of AI talk about it for an hour on YouTube?
Right.
Like
a good example.
It's kind of wild. It's
is
wild. Like you're competing, like Silicon Slopes competes with YouTube.
Right.
and events and things like that, it's just fascinating.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it though, because being an entrepreneur can be lonely, right?
Yeah.
Like you're pushing a rock up a hill a lot of the time. And so there's camaraderie in being able to be with other entrepreneurs to like problem solve and get ideas and be creative and have those conversations that sometimes you can't have sort of with your staff, but you need to have with other CEO, COO tech entrepreneurs.
Well, it is super lonely and nobody cares. That's not like nobody cares what you're working on until you're like nobody cared what Ryan Smith was working on for 20 years. And now we all care what Ryan Smith has to say.
We all care what he invests in now, right?
Right. But nobody cared. I knew him. Like nobody cared what Ryan was doing or saying or any of that type of stuff. Right. And
it's
now
a lot of resilience.
Yeah. And so that part is really hard and it is really lonely. But like at Silicon Salts, we kind of see ourselves as like our job is to surround entrepreneurs with the community. Mm-hmm. I imagine for WGU, your job is to surround students with the community.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And that means the education piece. That means professors.
Right.
That means resources. That means mentors, all that type of stuff.
That's right. And I'm going to call out Weston here, who I think is your producer. He's a student at WGU. And so it was fun talking to him before. And Weston's super self-motivated and he's, going through things and working at nights and around his full-time job here with Silicon Slopes. And so we have a lot of learners like that know what they want to do. They're motivated, they're organized. And then there's a lot of students who need that extra support. Almost half of our students are first in their family to go to college. And so that program mentor checking in once a week with them is really critical. And we're increasingly, actually, we just launched what we call WGU Connect, which is a platform in which we can have more peer-to-peer interactions.
Yeah, that's huge.
And faculty to peer interactions and multiple like cohorts. So creating that digital community, that's one of the fun things that we're doing is really kind of we're at the leading edge there of like, what is a quality digital learning community and how do you help students build networks, build relationships, build social capital, right? That's part of an education experience is building a network and social capital. And so we're attempting to really push on that with our model of creating more community for our students who need it to be successful and that want it to then take that next step to their career and job.
Weston's going to WGU. What are you studying, Weston? Business administration. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So you can't leave here, Weston. But what that signals to me is I have to give him more money soon.
Hey, I think that's a great idea because, the increase in earnings of our graduates is sizable. So don't mess up our statistics here. Weston needs more money once he finishes.
We'll make sure that we contribute to the statistics for you. So finally, as you think about WGU, as you think about the future of education, does where someone is matter anymore? Like it used to obviously really matter. Like you're in Utah, like you're called Western Governors University, which means I think some people might view that as like, hey, you serve only the West or something.
Right.
But obviously you don't.
Right.
And so like, how do you think about place and location and really democratizing education is not just in the United States, but around the world?
Right. So you'll notice that we use WGU for branding now. That's really what we use to try and get past what you're talking about. Maybe
Worldwide Governors University. You should say that.
World's greatest university.
Yeah,
That's
world's greatest university. That's even better.
Right. Here a couple stats that I think helps illuminate what you're getting at. So 180,000 current students. We're almost hitting 400,000 graduates. So just imagine that within a 27-year period, we'll have 400,000 graduates. In this year, we graduated just over 50,000 students. So that's the equivalent of like almost every university in Utah.
Yeah.
We graduated more students in 1 year, right, than all the other institutions combined. So we have students in all 50 states across the U.S. And WGU's model with being online and competency-based and nonprofit, it really means that a student can learn at their own pace, in their own place, and in their own time. So someone who's working full-time, they can study at night. They could study on a break at work, and then they can study at their own pace. So students can take multiple courses at once, and they could get through 18 credit hours, 20 credit hours in a term. Or if life gets complicated, then they might go down to 12 credit hours, for example. And then another thing that I'll just note is students can start every month. So in traditional models, you have to wait 4 months or wait a year. We have students who start every month with us. And so all of those design aspects, I think, are what really has driven this increase in enrollment at WGU, because it's flexible, it's personalized, it's affordable, and it's quality. We can demonstrate, our students get jobs and they earn more.
Oh, the quality is undeniable. Yeah, which is incredible. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about. You need to come back as you start to work through all these things.
Would love to,
because I could talk to you about this for hours. But
and Clint, I just want to say, being in Utah for my career and watching Silicon Slopes develop as an organization, it plays such a critical role. And as I travel around the country for WGU and in prior roles, people know Silicon Slopes and they know it's part of this real sort of ethos of tech and innovation in Utah. And so thank you for the amazing role that Silicon Slopes has played, because it is palpable in the state of Utah. But I'll tell you, having worked national and being sort of a representative of Utah as a state, it's been a great sort of economic development play. And it's really incredible what you guys do.
It really does kind of freak me out. Like that, it started to freak me out when people outside of Utah knew what it was.
Right.
They're like, and they can almost explain it better than Utahns.
Right. And I think it's part of why Utah's become a top desirable place to live, and our cost of housing's gone up. But
that's our fault. That actually is our fault, we need to figure out how to solve that. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to next time.